Now we're going to explore the reality of the VC being involved in the investment. Last summer, DBIC Ventures led the latest funding round with Klearcom, and I'd therefore like to welcome Colm O'Sullivan from DBIC Ventures with Mark Rowan and Liam Dunn from Klearcom. You're very welcome, Colm, Mark and Liam. I understand that you participated on the NDRC Accelerator, and that's where DBIC Ventures led the funding round. Mark, can you please share with us in overview exactly what value add Klearcom are providing their clients with?
Yeah, I'd be delighted to. The value add that Klearcom provides to our clients is the local capability to validate what their IVRs or contact centres look like on a global scale. So I suppose, what does that mean? The reality right now is a lot of large multinational organisations have contact centres and IVRs throughout the world. So take this on a domestic perspective. If you were to call through to Bank of Ireland, or if you were to call through to Permanent TSB or one of your local branches right now, you'd reach what we class as an IVR, interactive voice response. If that's not working, if that's not operating, if your call isn't being stewarded correctly, and if something's gone wrong in that chain, essentially, the bank isn't even aware of it. With Klearcom, what we do is we validate that those lines of business are operational, we validate that the IVR messages are correct, and we validate that the call is being stewarded all the way through to the contact center agent. So we provide that assurance, that real-time validation, and we do that on a global scale.
Okay, so does that mean I'm not going to be stood in a long queue with Vodafone anymore?
Unfortunately not. But what it does mean is that your call will be stewarded correctly, and that there's validation for Vodafone that customers like yourself have the capability to be able to get through. And not just on a domestic scale, but on a global scale as well.
And Heidi, I might just add to that, if that's okay. You take it that we live in a switching economy. People don't complain anymore, they switch. And there's stats there from Accenture who conduct this global research that 83% of people would avoid a company forever due to a poor IVR experience. So what we do is we ensure that if there is issues, they're notified in real time. And ideally, if they're proactively testing, they're making sure that that voice bot works when you use German locally in that market, that it's able to understand and engage with that German. And if there's any issues, we're telling them in real time. And without our kind of service offering, what they're waiting on is disgruntled customers to communicate via some other channels to let them know when there's issues. So we're removing poor delivery of technical services, essentially is what we're doing.
And the cost implication of that alone could be anywhere upwards of 500,000 an hour for these large multinational organisations. So being able to get ahead of that in time and provide that assurance before it impacts their end clients and customers, it lends a lot of credibility to the service offering we provide.
Okay, thank you both for that. When Richard was speaking there, Richard was obviously talking about the strength of the team. And I can see, obviously, we've got a lot of complementary skill sets going on here. But Colm, if I can just come over to you and ask you, from the DBIC Venture point of view, obviously you have X number of inquiries coming in. You have a good deal flow there. What was it that caught your eye with regards to Klearcom?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the team there, and I know Richard previously talked a lot about that. I mean, if I was to differentiate three things, the team probably would be first and foremost. I mean, we're hearing from Mark and Liam this afternoon now, but there's also a really strong CTO within the founding team. So there's that great mix of commercial and technical. And I think beyond that team, then that led into their approach. So they've obviously developed a product that was getting great traction, and we could see, the quality of pipeline that they were building with very large customers. But I think their core focus as well was beyond just the product. They were also very clear from the outset in terms of the sales approach and the go-to-market strategy. And that's where a lot of early stage companies maybe struggle a little bit. They're so focused on the product and the solution that they maybe sort of don't spend enough time, how to sell it, who to target. But Klearcom sort of really adept at that, I would say. And the guys all had a background in the space, so great domain knowledge. They'd worked together. I think Liam and Mark know each other going back quite a while, so a lot of factors just sort of really stood out like that. And I think just lastly on the product as well, I mean, it's a non-invasive solution. So, Mark talked about Vodafone. If Vodafone was using Klearcom, Klearcom doesn't get embedded inside Vodafone's system. So the guys can show the value of the solution and the product straight away when they speak to potential customers. So that speed of adoption was really interesting. We could just see how quickly they were getting traction in the market was really impressive.
I think from hearing different conversations, I think the onboarding is a massive aspect of when you are integrating any kind of technology into a massive brand, because the last thing everybody wants is disruption.
Absolutely.
Liam, if I can just come to you, from your perspective, you obviously approached a number of VCs and angels. What made you choose DBIC Ventures?
Well, I would say we were having the exact same conversation on our side. We got a very strong founding team. We've got a mixture of technical, commercial, and previous startup experience. So we had one solid gap there that needed to be plugged, which was our funding and future growth. And whoever we brought on board had to fit our culture. It was just as important as, the three of us that started this back in the day. And I'll tell you an interesting story, actually. When we were doing our NDRC showcase, we've a funding day, demo day, as the industry be well aware of. One of the first people to email into us during that demo day was actually Richard. And we felt that culturally, that alone demonstrated a fit with us as a company. Like, we've got value statements. One of them is that we want people to be bold, make an impact. And we thought that Richard was taking quite a bold move by emailing into us before the presentation had even been completed. So we conduct our own due diligence. And as you go through that process, I suppose we wanted to ensure that they were a perfect fit, the same as the three founders on this, that on the board, long term, we could all work together. And they really were. It was as simple as that. And one of the most exciting things that sealed the deal for us was their ambition. We felt that their ambition matched ours. And you can imagine as well, at this stage, we're all so busy in our business. We're heads down in the weeds, focusing on the day to day. And what we find is that DBIC and the guys on our board help us kind of eyes up. And when we have our board meetings, help us look at kind of more helicopter view and things, and they pull us back out of the weeds to understand where we go now in terms of 2, 3, and 4 year outlook. So we found that kind of skill set, that capability, that ambition was really, really important for us, because we're just busy scaling right now, and we need someone that can help us ensure that we're looking long term on this. The guys were just a natural fit. Another thing I just add to it is that a lot of startups in the early stage can be afraid of the due diligence, and it sounds like it is laboursome. It is laboursome, but it's really good process for you as a founding team to go through, because it helps de-risk every single asset of your business, whether it's your technical, your financial, your legal, and what it does is ultimately set you up for success. And what I'd say is that, again, when you're speaking to the VC market, it's important that founders and starting teams get a couple of term sheets together and have a couple of options there on the table. But ultimately, we felt DBIC and HBAN along with EI were the perfect fit for Klearcom, and I can say we are thoroughly enjoying it, and we look forward to this long-term partnership being a huge success for everybody involved.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Liam. Mark, just want to come over to you there. How did you, from your perspective, find the fundraising process?
Yeah, it was quite seamless, actually, and I think that comes down to the fact that we were working directly with DBIC throughout this whole process. We were heavily engaged from the get-go, and in terms of the back and forth with the term sheets and the information supplied and everything, it was very much a seamless process. One of the things that Liam has already alluded to is the fact that we did our due diligence both internally and externally, and we wanted to ensure that whoever we were working with was a perfect fit for our culture. And thankfully, through working with DBIC, the process was extremely seamless, and we couldn't recommend them highly enough.
And since the investment, you're now very much in scale-up mode, and you're employing 16 staff, looking to open offices in the US and have key clients in the pharmaceutical and financial services sector. What do you believe has been the greatest value of DBIC Ventures? Liam, would you like to take that one?
Oh, that's a multifaceted question. We like working with Colin first, but after that,
good call.
After that, I would say, look, in the space that we work in, it's enterprise SaaS, and for us to truly deliver for our enterprise customers, there's an awful lot of background investment that needs to be done. It's not just about server uptime, it's not just about infosec, it's not just about our own platform in itself. There's huge overheads involved. I don't think we would have been able to scale as fast as we could unless we had the DBIC guys on board. I just don't think we would have been able to develop our services as fast as what we could, hire key people that we needed to hire, and I suppose what we really liked is we just felt that the DBIC guys, there was no predatory motives. They were in it long term, and when we approached them with our milestones and key plans that we want to trigger based on those milestones, it was always very positive, challenging in relation to our plans, and we've just felt overall, I think we're a bit smarter in relation to our business. In addition to the funding, obviously, was key to help us move as fast as what we have.
And just to add to your point there, Liam, I think one of the most important factors is we definitely could not have scaled as fast. We couldn't have grown as fast. We couldn't have expanded our operation as effectively without the backing of DBIC. One of the things is we have very, very stringent, strict and high achieving goals, and DBIC fall in line with those directly with us every time.
Okay, and Colm, just coming over to your good self there, what do you see as the key differentiators? Say somebody had an offer from another VC and yourselves at DBIC Ventures were in the calling. How would you differentiate yourself to another venture fund?
I think our approach, and I think it's been brought out in the conversation here today, is sort of that partnership and being really part of that team and the alignment of interest as well, I would say. We're not hung up on seeking a certain level of the equity or anything like this. We're just trying to what's the right fit. Is the opportunity fitting within our strategy? Can we work really closely with the team? And then delivering on that, and I think being that strategic partner for the companies that we work with. So, it goes a lot, obviously we have the firepower with the capital, but it goes a lot beyond having that capital. It's about the decision making. We've been doing this for a long time. We know what the journey looks like. We know what the later stage investors are going to look for, helping make those decisions and then providing the capital and the credibility along with that as well. So even for us, like when it comes to that next round, I would say like Richard talked about our ability to follow on. If you're, say, going to the US and then you look at maybe raising a later stage round with a US VC, they're going to take a lot of credibility from the fact that you've got a very strong local investor in your local market who's then following on quite strongly as well and putting their money where their mouth is. So those are the points I would say.
Okay.
Maybe about us.
So do you think one of the key differences is because you're at this full time?
Absolutely. We're in the market all the time. I suppose, like Liam, Mark, Satish, they're obviously focused day in, day out on Klearcom and the core business. And I think, our core business is investing in companies, and we're going to obviously build up a portfolio of about 25 companies. We're at that sort of strategic level across different markets all the time, and we've been doing it for years as well. So.
There's a question coming from the audience. How realistic were the financial projections you guys came up with for the seed round? So
I'll answer that.
We're all having a little giggle here, so I'm not sure who wants to take that one, Mark or Liam.
I'll answer that, and I'd say we were absolutely on target, and great question, and we're delighted to answer it.
Okay, and another question from the audience is, did you have a lot of tough meetings around terms?
No, again, that due diligence process from the outside can look a bit scary. I don't think it was tough. I think what they were the right questions, not that they were the tough questions. I think it makes you sharp. I think you need to go through that process because, especially if you're in this long term, like our ambition is to be one of the largest SaaS providers in our space in terms of what we do. We're not going to do that by not having best practice in every single area, and I think the whole process ensures that you are best practice. So I wouldn't say tough questions. I would say they were the right questions. And look, if you're afraid to answer a question, I think you need to look at that yourself, because if you're not willing to answer something honestly, there's obviously something to hide. And obviously, with any VC, if they see something like that, they're going to want to probe further. So it has to be total transparency, because you have to remember, it's not a you versus them. We're all together. It's no different to bringing a new founder into the team. It's about looking at that it is a genuine partnership long term.
No, I think that's a very fair point, Liam. So just come in on that maybe, Heidi, because I think, for us as well, it's about making sure that we are also forming that right long-term partnership, because, we're sitting on the same table as all the founders that we invest in. We're essentially, we're in the equity, we're shooting for the same goal. So, through that diligence process, I mean, you're asking the questions, but you're also spending the time together and getting to know one another and making sure the fit is right.
I think, from talking to Deborah this morning as well, the way that, and the way that Mark and Liam have adapted this is that feedback. It's for you, it creates thought provocation, I can't say it. And what it does is it makes you see a better way or be smarter and leaner. So I think from what has been said here, it's very much a relationship building thing. It's if you can feel you can work with a team, we'll do everything that we can to help you and grow that business.
Absolutely.
So I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Colm, to Mark and Liam, and wow. Good luck on your scaling process. Long may it continue.
And I'd just like to ask one last thing, if I could, everybody just follow Klearcom on LinkedIn and follow our exciting news as we scale in the months and years ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that.